All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Wednesday webinar. Today, focused on cycling. My name is Mel Marginet. I'm joining you from Green Action Center, and this event is taking place during GoTober. All right. So we're located on the lands of the Anishinaabe, the Anishinaabe, and the Dakota Iote, and we're on the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Green Action Center is dedicated to working in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation through our programming and our operations. So I'm joining you today from our sustainable transportation team. You might also be familiar with Green Action Center through our composting programs. Maybe you've taken a master composter course, through our waste reduction programs, our First Nations waste minimization program, or Compost Winnipeg. And so during the month of October, we encourage you, if you don't already, to create an account with Go Manitoba. October is a great time to try new things and to encourage those in your lives to try new things as we're making new routines for the fall. With GoTober, it runs all month long. And what's important about it is it's not all or nothing where you have to make every single trip in a sustainable way. We're just really encouraging people to try 1 or 2 trips a week, be they to work, to school, various errands in your life, to try doing those trips in a sustainable way. And you never know what new ways you'll find to get around and what you like to do and might keep on doing all throughout the year. We give away some great prizes at the end of the month, including tickets to Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre. We've got a great prize pack from Into the Music, some shows coming up at the Park Theatre, just a whole great list of prizes that you could win. And we encourage sustainable transportation because it's obviously good for the environment, but also there's so many great co-benefits, including getting out in nature, meeting a new carpool partner who might become a great new friend, and just all of the benefits that come along with getting around outside of driving alone. So today's webinar, we're focused on biking, and I'd like to welcome Mark Cohoe. Mark is joining us. He's the executive director of Bike Winnipeg, and he's also taught with the CAN Bike program. The CAN Bike program offers resources to help people bike safely, effectively, and enjoyably. Welcome, Mark.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Mel.
Yeah, no
I'm
problem.
really
I was
thrilled
so
to be
glad when
here.
you said yes. So yes, I'm going to turn off my mic. I can
Oh,
advance the slides as you say next slide. I'll take care of doing that for you.
that sounds
And
great.
yeah. And then for
Yeah,
folks,
so
oh, sorry, just for folks tuning in at home, if you have questions that come up, there's a Q&A button you'll notice just along the toolbar there for Zoom webinars. Please feel free to type in your questions and I'll moderate the Q&A once Mark has done his presentation. So I'll turn it over to you now, Mark.
yeah, so really thrilled to be able to speak to everyone here about cycling. I think, it's one of the great opportunities for people to get out, enjoy some fresh air and some cycling, and really move forward on things. Um, And really, it is something that increases that health benefit, the financial benefits, your mental health, and it certainly has a great effect on our climate as well. So today we're gonna probably go pretty quickly, just to go through different items here. Um, I could share my screen too, Mel, or
Yes, definitely. I
do you want
will
me?
stop my share and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, I think we can do that now. Let's just get it into here and we'll get our slideshow going. And okay, so it's going to be a pretty basic introduction. I'm executive director with Bike Winnipeg, so we really advocate to get more people cycling in more often across the city. So I'm going to start out with some really basic bike equipment to help you get moving, and some of the really key things, are lights, a white light on the front that's required by law if you're at night. And then on the back, we really emphasize getting people a red light It can be flashing or non-flashing on that back. A minimum would be a reflector. A bell to give people if you're on a trail or if you're on a bike path with other people, lets them know you're coming. It's part of sort of a trail etiquette. And some higher visibility. It can be some stuff that you put on just for the trip, whether it's a leg band, you can put a sash on, or your jacket can have reflective tape. Definitely makes a difference there. Some other accessories that you might want to think about, if you're getting a little more active there. As we get into winter, we'll see some rain, some snow, and really fenders are key to keeping everything clean there. A bit of rain gear to go along, but hopefully you've got rain gear for your day-to-day life as well. Certainly a rack or a basket is something that's really beneficial if you're getting out there. Just, it gives you an opportunity to not have a backpack. Saves your back a bit of um, pain there, gets it off the weight, and it really does make a pretty big difference to how enjoyable that ride is going to be for you. And then a water bottle, just keeping hydrated. Mirror is an option. Some people like it, some people don't. I personally go without it. Key to those, remember, if you do have that mirror, it doesn't replace shoulder checking to go through. Some of the other cycling gear really that's required is a helmet. It really does reduce that chance of head injury. If you're under 18, it's a legal requirement, and if you're on an electric bike, it's a legal requirement as well. Again, clothing, if you can wear bright colors, it does help you make you more visible. If not, you can create that reflectivity with removable leg bands, a vest, or just a sash that goes across. If you're riding through winter or summer, glasses help as well to keep the debris and dust away. And for longer trips, you might want to consider gloves. It's obviously if you come off your bike, it's going to protect your hands from falling in. But also on a longer trip, it gives you a bit of protection against vibration that'll make things more comfortable for you. I think a big thing though too is when you're thinking about getting out is choosing a route can make a big difference. It's really, we're in the process of building out our network in the city. Certainly made a fair bit of progress and still a fair bit to come. But really one of the key things to know is that, the bike routes don't necessarily follow that same route you might follow in a car. So it's important to try and get that out and some of the tools you can use to help you with that. The City of Winnipeg, they have their online map at data.winnipeg.ca. You just have to search for the cycling map and it'll pop up for you. They've also occasionally have printed maps that you can pick up, sometimes at the libraries. And on those maps, the really key thing to know is that the cooler the color is on the legend, so the green, the blue, sort of cooler colors, telling you that that's a more protected, a more comfortable route for you to take. And in this case, green is a multi-use path, either gravel or paved, and they're showing you protected lanes and buffered lanes, painted bike lanes in blue, just to let you know what you're getting into. And the neighborhood greenways, there's sort of that third level, really multi-use path, protected bike lanes, and neighborhood greenways are sort of the traffic calm streets that make it a little easier, much more comfortable to get out and riding. It sort of separates you from that, at least the higher end traffic, which we know is one of the major things that people don't want to get involved with. Some other tools that you can use to help you find that, Google Maps. If you go in the bottom left, there's a little layers box. You can turn on the bicycle layer. It's sometimes a little out of date, and having used it occasionally to try and find directions, it's pretty car oriented. So I might not go 100% with what they choose on a bike route, and often it can put you on an arterial without any good reason. But OpenStreetMaps is another one that's available as well. Another part of an aspect of getting out on your bike is making sure it's there for you when you come back. So having a good lock for your bike is really critical, and thinking about where you lock it up. So these are just some really key ones. A U-lock along with a cable makes a big difference. A lock doesn't guarantee your bike won't be stolen, but it does sort of provide time and make it a little less appealing to someone. Thinking about where you lock up your bike is key as well. So you're looking for ideally a bike rack, or something that's immovable, whether it's a piece of fencing, good hard fencing, or a pole. Um, you want a well-lit location, preferably with a good amount of foot traffic, so that there'll be eyes on your bike to sort of prevent and really discourage anyone from trying to take it. And then making sure you lock that bike, getting that U-lock around the frame and at least one of your wheels is an important part. Really recommending that you're getting that frame locked and the front wheel. Sometimes if you got the cable lock added in with there, that might be the one you're going, but it's really trying to get as much value locked up as you can. And the other part to think about it is just make sure you're getting a tight fit. Uh, you don't really want to create any space where a thief can possibly get in and get some leverage to break things apart. And then finally, really, is if that seat or the lights or the panniers are there, grab them with you before you go if they're quick release. Okay, and so in terms of actually getting out on the pathways and the roads and getting out and getting from you to your destinations, is really four things that are key to maintaining at all time that will help keep you safe out on the roads. Communication is key. So that's really about letting other people know what you're doing on the road, making sure that when you're communicating, you're creating that cooperation with other road users, and it makes life a lot easier. Maneuverability is about making sure that you have space to keep yourself safe, that you're not sort of limiting yourself from where you're positioning yourself, either on the road or the pathway, that you're leaving options open for yourself. So generally speaking, we're talking if there's no parked cars, a meter from a curb. If there are parked cars, you're keeping 1.5 meters away. Visibility is about really being in that other people's field of vision. So that's, being in a spot where you're not hidden by a fence, you're not hidden sort of in between parked cars, and lights and reflective gear play a role in that, as well as your road position. And then predictability, making sure that you're kind of keeping in that predictable uh, straight line riding, and really not weaving in and out, so that people in and around you are aware of you, but also have a good sense of where you're going to be as well. So again, the communication, really, there's two parts to communications. First part is really signals. You're using your signals to communicate with those around you where you're heading. And we'll talk about the signals, but really it's a sort of a three-part process when you do your signals as well. What you're doing is really a shoulder check, so looking behind you to see what's coming through. Doing your hand signal to indicate where you're going and to kind of communicate with people. And then basically, before you actually make any turning movement as well, you're doing a final shoulder check just to see that you have that space before you actually move out into a different part of the roadway or the pathway, whatever it should be. And just in terms of a refresher on signals, because for some it might have been a while, but the left turn is just straight, your arm out, left turning. Right turn is the opposite. Just you can stick your right arm out, and you got a bit of an option with a right turn, which allows you to keep a hand on your back brake if you like, if you're right-handed, or you can just go out. And then stop is another one. And one thing that we're missing a little bit on this is just sort of if you're doing a small, maybe a 1 or 2 foot maneuver to get around a piece of debris, or to maneuver a little bit around a crack or something, you can just point to where you want to go, kind of just straight down on an angle, and that gets that as well. Sort of that second part of communication uh, works with maneuverability as well. Our road position is definitely part of what we're communicating where we want to go with it as well. So in the Highway Traffic Act, it really states you have to be as far to the right as practicable, but it's never really defined in that Highway Traffic Act what that means, which leaves you room to decide. But sort of maintaining that maneuverability means really, if you're up against the curb, at least a meter away from the curb is where you want to be. That creates you in a visible spot where people behind you are sort of forced into a decision about how they're going to move. But it creates that very visible spot for you. And really the two key things about being that distance from the curb are it allows you a bit of space that if someone is uh, closing in on you, is sort of moving in on your space, you're not right up against the curb where you have no maneuverability. You've got a meter to your right that allows you a bit of a buffer to move into if need be. Um, it also means that the temptation to just sort of stay within that lane and pass you, which for most Winnipeg lanes is not going to be a comfortable pass or a safe pass, is taken away from that driver behind you. So I like to think of it as taking away bad options from the drivers. That road positioning that you're using is helping take away those bad options. Um, and why we're pushing that 1 meter, and why we're asking you to keep a meter away. It's not to sort of be a hindrance to anyone on the roadway. It's really about safety, and it's about practicality as well. So, like I said, that meter of space is providing you space to maneuver. So if someone is passing you too closely, you're not jammed up against the curb. You've got a meter of space that you can move off to and avoid something. Um, but there's practicalities as well with what's sort of within that first meter or that first couple of feet from the curb. Often that's where debris is going to accumulate. It's where we have our sewer drains going. Often there's a road joint there as well. So being a meter away from the curb often gets you past some of that debris, some of those hazards, and allows you to maintain that maneuverability, but also at the same time maintain a consistent straight line, which creates predictability for drivers behind you as to where you're going to be. They know that a hazard in the road doesn't push you out left instead of right. Now the meter is sort of a guideline, but occasionally it's even a meter away from the curb isn't really uh, practically speaking as far to the right as you want to be. And there are a lot of situations where in fact you want to control the full lane, take the lane so that it can't be used by a vehicle at all. And that, the situations where that arises really are narrow lanes. So often a lane is it's just too narrow. If you're a meter away from the curb and the lane's 3 meters wide, you're essentially riding a meter wide. So it means there's a meter on your right and a meter on your left. No one can really pass you practically within the lane, or really even with half the lane. They're in a situation where to pass you, they need to be getting out into another lane. Oftentimes, believe it or not, in Winnipeg, we have some poor road conditions that might affect that as well. So in those cases, you're trying to avoid that and keep out of those poor road conditions. Construction zones, especially where you see the pylons, those are no pass situations. So in those zones, you want to, essentially movement is restricted to the lane you're in, and you want to make sure no one's trying to pass you in that lane. But other situations, a diamond lane, where your bus lane is a right turn lane effectively. So that means that the vehicles are turning right. And essentially you're in a position then where you want to take that lane so someone can't make a right turn in front of you. They've got to pass you and then make that right turn. Um, as well, a left turn lane would be the same. We'll talk about a roundabout or a slip lane. We'll talk about that as well. But those are, again, situations where it's just not practical to pass. So you're taking that lane so that someone behind you doesn't have the option of maybe trying to squeeze through. Slip lanes are especially bad because often they start wide and end narrow. So someone starts to pass you, the lane narrows, and now they're squeezing you out. So that's just an example there, really using that slip lane, that right turn lane. Taking the lane means that someone is not going to be able to pass you through that lane. But of course, as well, when you think about that right turning vehicle, their attention isn't necessarily on that bike, person on a bike in front of them, but it's the traffic that they're about to turn into. So you're sort of taking away in those bad options from them, making sure that you're really in control of that safety for yourself. Visibility and predictability, they definitely go hand in hand. And weaving in and out is something you want to avoid. Really, that's part of the reason we want to keep that 1 meter away from the curb, is that we keep a straight line that makes us a lot more predictable to someone driving behind us. But it keeps us more visible as well. And certainly, if their parked cars are there and there's maybe a gap of 3, 4, 5 parked cars, if you're kind of heading in, you're uh, sort of where we have here in the red, in the no-go kind of, you're kind of becoming invisible to cars coming from behind because you're blocked off by that parked vehicle. But the other thing is you've kind of, at one point, before the parked cars, you've got your space, you've kind of created that space where you're safe. When you merge in and sort of push in between those parked cars, um, you're going to come to the end of those that gap, and you're going to have to get back out into the traffic. So it kind of creates that problem for you of getting back in. Um, so it is there. And then the other thing with parked cars to be really aware of is to make sure you're staying 1.5 meters away from them. And that's really to make sure that if a door opens, you're outside of where that door will open into, because it's unfortunate if it opens up into you and you're in that space. You're going to crash into the door, and then you're completely out of control and potentially rolling out into a roadway with traffic. So definitely avoid at all costs. And if you're 1.5 meters away from the parked vehicles, you should be outside that door zone as well, so that problem won't arise. Um, Another sort of rule here is making sure we're not passing sort of through that right when we're coming up to queues in traffic. If we have a bike lane, that's a different scenario that we'll talk about. But essentially, we're in mixed traffic, we don't want to be riding to the right to pass those vehicles. It puts you in the blind spot of the vehicle. So that's the big issue with that is you're invisible to a vehicle, and often those vehicles are making a right turn that will cut in front of you. Um, so properly, as you see here on the left, if you do come to that queue, it's just take your space in the middle of the lane, wait behind. You will get going again. And the honest truth is that if you do sort of cut through, the fact is that some of these vehicles are going to be passing you in the very near future, and they might not feel compelled to give you the space if you would just sort of squeeze by them in that narrow space between the curb and the car. So um, certainly it's you know definitely not a thing you want to be doing. And bigger trucks, that blind spot is very real and can be extremely dangerous. At intersections again, you know, sort of going back to that sense of trying to take away bad options from people. When we do come to either a light or a stop, it's good practice to get out into the middle of the lane, shoulder checking and signaling that you're going to do that. Both whether you're there first or if you're arriving sort of at the end of a queue, just to hold your spot. But it's also making sure that a right turning vehicle doesn't have that opportunity to cut in front of you as you go. You're removing that temptation to pass you and make the right turn all in one maneuver. Thing about turns as well. We often talk about sort of um, traveling in the rightmost lane that takes you where you want to go. But it's important, you know, on a residential street or just a single lane street, making a left turn. It's really important that you don't make that left turn from the curb into there, because that again is sort of uh, removing that predictability. Even if you're signaling it, it kind of creates a confused space. So really what our ideal situation there is what we want to be doing when we're coming to making that left turn is to do our shoulder check, see if we got space, point into the middle of the lane just to show that you want to get into that space, do a second shoulder check to make sure that you have space to get out into the middle of the lane there, and then get into the middle of the lane, and then you can make your left turn with just a left arm to show that you're moving that. And at that point, it's just moving through as a vehicle. If there is oncoming traffic, you would stop just as if you were in a vehicle, sort of before you get to that center line and move across, so that you know two vehicles can make the left. Um, Now, if you're on an arterial, there's sort of two ways you can manage a left turn. One, if you're going to make what you might call a vehicular left turn, you're going to have to get out, and in this case, the arterial has more than one lane. So you're going to have to make a left turn from not the curb lane, but a median lane. So it's similar to that neighborhood left turn. You've got to get out and make that turn, get into that lane, and sort of control that lane as you come to your left turn, and make that. So it's again, it's doing that shoulder check to see what's behind you, signaling that you want to get sort of with that angled arm, just pointing to the lane that you want to get into. Uh, Doing another shoulder check to make sure you're clear, and then getting into that left median lane, and just going through when you have that gap in traffic or when your light goes green, if you're at a more controlled intersection with a signalized intersection. If there are multiple lanes, again, it's the rightmost lane that takes you to where you go is where you want to be. And you're turning from outside lane to outside lane in that case. So if you're the second left turn lane, you're going to get into the second left lane. Um, and again, if there's a left turn lane, you'll get into that left turn lane. But anytime I'm moving outside of that curb lane, um, I'm going to use my essentially I'm going to be taking the lane to get across. And, you know, it might be all in one move that you can get from your curb lane to the lane that you need to turn from, or it might be in segments. And being in the center of the lane is back to that communicating with your position about you know, if you're sort of in that lane out in the center away from the curb lane, it's really communicating to someone behind you that you're preparing to make a left turn. And you know, part of the key there is as well sort of being aware that you've got that left turn coming up, and having a bit of proactively planning out that move across the street. Having said that, that's not the only way you can make a left turn. We have another option. Sometimes it's marked like this as what's called a two-stage left turn. Other times it's not marked. But in this case, you are going to flow through on the green line. So if we're on the, sorry, green light, if we're moving on a green light. We're riding south here. Pretend we're riding south to essentially where that number 3 is, and we are going to wait uh, within the green light. We're just going to position ourselves in what's called the little two-stage queue box, and we're going to hold out there until the light that connects onto the street we want to get onto goes green, and then we just push ourselves into that bike lane there, and we've kind of made a two-stage left turn queue. So often that's more comfortable. If traffic is heavy, it can be a lot more comfortable to make that two-stage turn rather than doing that vehicular left turn where you're having to move out and get across lanes of traffic to make your get yourself ready for that left turn. Looking at some of the other infrastructure that we see across the city, we talked about sort of at the start choosing your route, looking at those cooler colored routes, multi-use paths for the green. So in this case, this is an off-road path that's going to be more, the Northeast Pioneers Greenway as an example, the Northwest Hydro Corridor, the Blue Line routes are all examples of multi-use paths that you might have. And generally speaking, they're going to be shared both by people on bike, people on scooters, as well as people walking. So it's key to remember to be courteous, and communication, even when you're not in a place where with cars and vehicles and trucks, remains important. So certainly, if you're coming across a pedestrian, that bell is a good handy tool. I like to mention that I'm on the left, I'm on the right, however I'm passing, just gives that cue. A little a slowdown for people helps. Sometimes you might find that it's worth getting off the path a little bit and coming back in. Um, but again, signaling and shoulder checking, even though there's no vehicles, is good because, there's different speeds out there on the multi-use paths as well. So we want to make sure we're communicating even with the other people that are biking or walking with us. Protected bike lanes, these are physically separated from other the roadway traffic. So we're seeing more of these in Winnipeg. And really they for a lot of people, they're a lot less stressful, a lot more comfortable to ride in. You feel you've got a little more freedom uh, to think less about that traffic beside you. Some of the key things we'll talk about though are, here you're really going to see those two-stage left turns come into play. So you want to make using that, but also be aware of sort of those left turning vehicles or the right turning vehicles, whether it's at driveways or, maybe residential street crossings. You want to be aware of those. And sometimes as well, you want to watch sometimes the physical separation drops as you come to that intersection, something we're trying to work with the city on. But you might end up with a merged sort of vehicle coming in there. So be aware that that's potential, as well as if we'll talk about transit stops. So often on the protected bike lanes, the transit stop will be called what's a floating bus stop. And in that case, usually it'll be up and over sort of the bus stop. Sometimes it diverts sort of around. And in that case, it's worth slowing down. Sometimes you might see people waiting for the bus mixing in there. So you got to be aware of that. And certainly if there is a bus that's stopped there, that's a situation where you're going to want to stop, let people get on off that bus, and then continue on your way. Neighborhood greenways. So we see, we're in around 10 or 12 of these throughout the city now. That's something I think we're going to see grow. And neighborhood greenway is really a traffic calm street, whether it's speed humps, speed tables. They're generally 30 kilometers an hour. They're mixed traffic though, so you are mixing in with that lower speed traffic that's hopefully going at a slower pace and much lower volume for you as well. And you're looking, hopefully, ideally, there'll be improved crossings. So whether that's a signal to help you get across an arterial, ramp flash beacon, which is sort of those push button things, pedestrian corridor, and a bit of a work in progress. And then the painted bike lanes are sort of that lowest level of protection that we have, sort of more medium probably comfort level than the others three. But again, if you're in that lane, you're in a separate lane, so you can pass on your right. The cautions to be aware of really are that right turning traffic. If you're next to a car or parking, the parked cars in the door zone, and certainly, if you are sort of passing traffic where it's queued up, this is true of a protected bike lane as well. Uh, I would probably go a little slower there through that. You can still pass the cars on the right, but slow down and be a little bit aware that sometimes a vehicle turning left might be blind to you. And that's especially true if that sometimes the protected bike lanes are two-way rather than one-way, and that can be a little more the case in that two-way situation. Just lastly, there's some good resources out there. Manitoba Public Insurance, they'll go a lot more in depth and detail with diagrams and things like this than I can really pull off in 20 minutes. Cycling 101 and the city of Winnipeg, they also have sort of their bike infrastructure user guide, and you can search for both of those at their sites. With that, I'm going to drop the share here. Happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Yes, so if folks have any questions, anything that you would like to ask Mark, just please pop it into the Q&A button there, just on your toolbar. I see there's already one question in here. This is coming from Joanna. Oh yes, it's oh, those two-stage left turns. I call them a Copenhagen corner. Just that they can be a little bit awkward, and I think Joanna's question here is kind of the same. Yeah, is
Yeah.
that the where to position yourself? Yeah.
Yeah.
It can feel a little bit awkward, but yeah, if you have any comments.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a little tight on those, especially, if you think McDermott at Albert, the new one, Roslyn at Nassau or River at Nassau, sorry, as well. And essentially, you you kind of want to pull off so that if someone is going straight through on their bike, they have that space. And the idea is you're going to be a little to the left and sort of and you're going to basically in front of where a car would come through, and you're going to pull up, but they're at a red light anyway, so they're going to wait behind you, and you're waiting for that. Your through light will go red, and when it goes red, the green going the other way goes through there, and it's a little kind of inconvenient if you're in that vehicle, but in essence, they're going to be beyond you in a second anyway. So it's not a huge thing for them. And the amount of safety and comfort it gets to you, I think is totally does that, over compensates for that. So I do it if I'm coming down Maryland to Wellington Crescent where I have to make a left. Often the traffic there is just so much that to try and make that one lane at a time get through. Uh, it to me, it's just not worth it. And sometimes you can jump off the bike and walk it across if you like. But I would generally, you know, I would feel comfortable just sort of pulling in front. Usually that stop line for any vehicle is a little bit behind, but keep the crosswalk clear, keep the bike lane clear. You should have space to just sort of insert yourself in there and get moving.
Nice. Oh yes, there's a question that comes in here of what do you recommend just for aggressive drivers, those drivers who just seem to go out of their way to harass you, particularly to
Yeah.
women. Do you have any suggestions of what to do, where to report that?
Yeah. So yeah, you would report it to police through, and if it's right there and it's very if it's causing a dangerous situation, it's 911 for sure, and with that license number. But it's also worth remembering that keep yourself safe is first and foremost in your mind. And there's there's a natural tendency to lash out and to get there. But be aware that you're on a bike and they're in a multi-thousand pound vehicle. So sometimes it's, you know, uh, you just have to kind of push off and move through. It depends a little on the situation and, maybe who you're with. Um, but, I would always never come up arguing. You've always got to remain calm in those situations. And sometimes high, I don't know if you noticed this, but you were pretty close on that path, just 2 blocks back. You know, be that, and I think you just make sure you're not threatening in any way because that can really ramp things up. But yeah, it's a tough scenario, but sometimes just remember they're in that vehicle, and you're pretty vulnerable on the bike.
Totally. And I can say that like I've definitely noted a license plate, like just kind of went over, wrote it
Yeah,
down, and then when I got to my destination, reported it. And I've had, all of them have always been followed up on. So, you're a
yeah,
vulnerable person on a bike connecting with them, but when they have, the police contact
yeah,
them at the end of the day saying, hey, this was reported,
yeah,
it makes a big difference. And, it's another stat that, goes on the records that
yeah.
that stuff does get reported to the
And
city in some
and
form.
sometimes the police will go have a
Yeah,
talk with that person too.
exactly. So, they're less vulnerable than you are. Um, there's a question here from Marine. As someone who bikes lots and sometimes drives, as a driver, I don't like making a right turn from McDermott westbound onto Main northbound. Okay. I'm just trying to picture this in my
Me too.
mind as I need to cross over the bike lane. So I have to watch left for cars behind me and behind me for bikes, sometimes at the same time. It is like you have to make a lot
Yeah.
of care
Um,
there.
I yeah. So it's a two-way. Well, I think you're on a one-way there. So I think you're maybe turning right south uh off McDermott onto Main. And it is a little tricky. Certainly, I can't remember exactly how it's set up there, but I think there you can merge into the bike lane. So think of it as two motions that you're doing. Sort of check as you're approaching the intersection. Check what the avail. Make sure there's no one in that bike lane with your mirror and your shoulder check. And then, position yourself as you're approaching that intersection. There'll be a dashed line on a painted bike lane, and think I think that one as well kind of drops at the as you approach Main. Uh, and get in that lane. So essentially, as the driver, then you're taking that lane, and you're going to get through it in a motion. So it's either if you're at a red light, person on the bike is at a red light as well. There is a leading interval at McDermott, which maybe makes that a little different. So be aware of that. But that's just going to get that cycling traffic moving ahead of you. But it's really get yourself to the curb and then make your right turn from the curb, and that way you're taking away the possibility of someone being to to your right in your blind spot before you're making your right turn.
Great. And then the same person has just come back of like, have you heard of anything of making like a report of harassment and having kind of a driver? They're just worried if it's a routine route that driver will know that it was them. I've never
Oh,
heard of something
like an
like that.
anonymity?
Yeah,
Yeah. I, I haven't either. I suppose
it
it's a
always could happen.
possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably on the things that are closer to home, which, and sometimes I'll be your neighbor in other ways. Um,
Yeah.
or it could be someone near your workplace or school or a friend's place too. I haven't heard that. Um, but certainly I think, certainly if you did make a police report call and they spoke to someone and then the next day that person was harassing you, make another call. And the police, I think, would be fairly serious about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. You can also, when you're making that report as well, just say that we're intimidated by that driver and you'd like the police to be as anonymous about,
Yeah.
not say who you were or that, yeah, maybe generalizing the location or something a little bit more too. All right, so just checking if anybody has any more questions. We'll just hang on here for another few seconds. Maybe just reshare my screen in the meantime while we wait. All right, I think that's it for Q&A. So I just want to say thank you so much to Mark for coming to share your knowledge with us. Again, Mark is the executive director over at Bike Winnipeg. So if you have any other specific questions about cycling, you can reach out to us here at Green Action Center. Bike Winnipeg is a great resource, and we're always looking for contacts outside of the city of Winnipeg as well. So if you're a big bike advocate in your community, definitely keep us posted on what's going on and how we at Green Action Center can support you in your work. Ooh, and I just realized I put all of Mark's slides into our slides here. 1 second. Just too organized. So yes, and then if you have any other questions related to anything workplace commuter options, so ways we can help support you in your workplace or at your school, definitely go to our website and find out more there, or you can reach out to us directly at gohappy@greenactioncenter.ca. And we definitely encourage you. GoTober goes all month long. So if you haven't already, create your free account on Go Manitoba at gomb.ca and log your trips in there. And you can also find cycling routes when you put your route in. We've set up the website so that, if your city reports data on routes, that will get fed into Go Manitoba. So it'll recommend a route to you. And then if others in your area are interested in setting up a bike pool and sharing resources and just knowledge about different ways to get around, you can set that up with Go Manitoba as well. All right. Otherwise, that's it for us today. So I want to say thank you very much to everybody for coming on out. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your lunch break. And we're back again next Wednesday.
Right on. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Mark.
You bet.